Hello. Are we on? Are we online?
Nope.
All right.
Oh,
there we are. We're on screen and everything, everybody. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Renegades Ramble. This is episode 10. Yeah, we are officially hitting the decade mark when it comes to us doing these little podcasts.
Decade mark.
Oh, yeah, the decade mark.
Dude, we're double digits now.
Yeah, double digits, man. Here we go. Let's do
Episode
this.
10.
Yeah, we're going to be here for another 89 episodes.
89.
So, yeah. Welcome, everyone. We are, it's been a hell of a month so far in January. I mean, it's been a hell of a couple weeks, if I'm being honest, because here in the last couple weeks, I mean, the new season of Overwatch has started. Resident Evil 2 remake came out and blew the doors off of, like, everybody who wasn't expecting it. Kingdom Hearts 3 has come out. 13 years of waiting. Finally over with. Thank God.
Sarah, my name is Jacob. Nice to unofficially meet you.
Yeah, this is Jacob. He is...
I was answering to their comments. She was like,
yes.
who's the other guy? I'm like,
who's the other guy?
Jacob.
Yeah, there's...
Jacoby.
Actually, outside of me, who you all might know and think of, like, I'm Nate, and, of course, sitting here, we have Lavina.
Yeah.
Yeah, hasn't said a single word, but, yeah. I brought up Overwatch. I mean, you should at least be like, I'm Diva, bitch. Come on.
You should see her when she does her fist bump. Let's do it. Ready? What do you say? She
Nerf
didn't know
this.
this time. She says nerf this.
And then, of course, in the All That Remains meeting, we have Mr. Jacob, the audio aficionado.
File.
Yeah, the audio
The
file.
audio snob.
Yeah, and also a hell of a cameraman and all around really cool guy. Actually, a good musician too. You should see some of his guitar work that he's done. Pretty
I
awesome.
like tinkering.
Yeah, and then we have special effects extraordinaire and pretty much the closest thing to a head honcho we have in this amazing studio here at Primordic. Outside of the head honcho himself, who is his
bouncer.
father, we have Senor Roan.
I'm a boss.
Like a boss.
Like a boss.
Speaking of boss, are you ready to play the boss here soon?
Which boss?
The boss. You are about to endure some painstakingly funny acting that's going to be going on here very soon.
Yeah.
Got scripted
short
out
film?
and
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. I haven't mentioned that on the channel yet. That's actually something that has been in the works here at Primordic now for like the last week or so.
Last week.
I remember last week you brought that up to me, and I'm really excited to do it.
I was
I
sick last week, and the week before that I was other places busy.
Oh, yeah.
We had a lot of stuff going on. We had to push it back a little bit.
Yeah, and you know, with Lavina being your eternal assistant, she was absent for a little bit there too, and that's all right. No, it's understandable entirely.
Business is business.
Well, I also
so.
had school too,
okay.
so
And school, and
Yeah.
school, of course. And yeah, here at Primordic, where it's the start of a new year, projects aplenty. Jacob's got his, Roan's got his, and plus we have Davion and Mook and all of their crew coming up here and making music and everything. Which I want to get Davion, or as he's more professionally known, Spaceman Jones. I'd like to get him on here at one point and like have him talk about some shit. Talk about. I remember when we were in the studio the other day, he was talking about this old Subaru hatchback that he had that hauled all of his shit around for like 2 years, and like the backup was almost always full and never empty.
Yeah, it's the musician's struggle.
It is. It is.
Yeah, we'll pack $5,000 worth of gear into a $400 car, drive $100 in gas for a $50 show.
Exactly.
You do it over and over, and
Hey,
you still not regret it because you enjoy it and love it that much.
Yeah, same thing with me. I remember like a lot of the shows we played. The furthest we ever drove was Atlanta, and that was a trek, especially considering I was hunched up in my little Mercury Cougar. I was like hunched all the way up like this with my head tilted sideways because I was just like the backup was so full, and I was like that the entire trip. And I remember when we got out for a break after driving like a good 2 hours, I stood up and just like, oh, and then like my spine, I could hear just like my entire spine just opened up, and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to get back in there for a little bit. I just want to sit. I just want to lay down on the ground. I actually did. I laid down there on a park bench on a bench that was at one of the rest stops, and I was just like, "Can I stay here?"
We've traveled like 3 hours to play shows where you almost fall through the stage.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's like you
we didn't almost fall through the stage, but we actually played 2 while we were down there. We played 1. It was this. It was sort of a audition for the Vans Warped Tour.
Yeah.
And we didn't get it, of course. I mean, even if we would have got it, we probably wouldn't have gone anywhere.
Yeah,
because the Vans Warped Tour is. It's actually this is the last year of it, I think, isn't it?
I think it's getting picked back up.
Oh shit! Awesome.
It just depends on who the investors are. Vans
Monsters
Warped Tour.
Monsters Warped Tour.
Yeah, there's Rockstar Energy has done a few. I mean, it just depends on who the sponsors are, who pays for it, because there's a lot of money goes into these festivals.
Of course, yeah.
Stuff I don't realize.
Yeah.
For one day to run the stages, like on Rammstein, it cost about $10,000 in lights just for the show.
And,
I mean,
well,
that's for the power bill. That's just for the power bill.
Rammstein, though, man.
Yeah.
That's Rammstein.
Yeah, and
being,
then their
being themselves.
the pyro cost damn near $200,000 just to run pyro for one show, and it's like, you gotta have fire trucks on standby, ambulance on standby. The engineers, the safety engineers that set up these stages for that stuff is just mind-blowingly.
Well, you don't want a James Hetfield incident from 1992.
Okay, I will pull this up in case you can't not hear me.
Yeah,
my bad.
It's okay. But on top of the artist struggle, there's always the stuff, trying to get stuff made, and also trying to get people together and organize everything for making films and all that. For us this week, it was I think it was the weather was a big thing because the weather took a turn for the much worse.
It's cold.
Oh, it is. Yeah,
it's almost
bundled
over.
up. Noticed, we're
bundled up in here.
I'm about to
like
head
3
somewhere
layers on,
else.
like a thermal
Is what I'm about to
thing
do.
under the.
It's because the heating and air conditioning unit that we have over here turns out before the people who previously occupied this place just took it out and stripped out all the copper and everything just for.
There's no machine in there.
Yeah,
but here
it's just
it's actually
empty
not
box.
bad in here.
Mm-hmm.
It's cold out in the hallways.
Oh yeah, the hallways are
because we've been running the heat in here and it's still chilly.
Well, and plus
here we got the lights.
We got these big lights up here doing
8
that
kilowatts of light running right now. So.
Yep.
And that's why I have a blanket.
Yeah, that's why she's got a blanket. I've got my jacket, even though I don't mind because I'm part polar bear. But on top of that, just a few other projects going on. Wyndham will actually be in town here this weekend. You all probably remember her. That Filthy Casual. Well, actually, her and her husband, those Filthy Casuals, I guess they can call themselves now. They're both going to be coming in. He's a big-time gamer, and he's actually a martial artist, too, so that's pretty cool. But
are they? You said Filthy Casual. Is that a?
That's their YouTube channel.
Okay, because all right. So yeah, I actually saw them at RTX. I think they had somebody with Filthy Casual had a booth.
Well, that's a very popular brand of shirt that's actually out there, but no, they're just that was a name that Wyndham had for a long time on her YouTube channel and never did anything with it. And then all of a sudden, Filthy Casual wear comes out, and she's just like, "Hey, I became a trend."
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Never mind then.
Well,
No,
yeah, no, was that? I wish that was her. If that were her, I'd be like, "Hey, you want to do business? Come on, hey, we'll wear your shirts every time we go on a podcast." But yeah, so a lot has happened. With that, a lot is happening here at the studio. Hopefully, here soon, we're going to do like a massive tour and show you all what is
like a video tour.
Huh?
Like a video tour?
Yeah, like a full video tour. Not not like how Bernie goes off of his meds and.
I don't know. That was. I feel like that's a good way to show the studio, though.
Well, it is.
Fun.
It is, but at the same time, I want to do a serious take on it, but then also do like a comedy comedy take.
Especially
on it.
like that, like VHS, like early '90s take on it.
Yeah, it's like, hi everyone, welcome to Rooster Teeth Studios. I'm Bernie Burns, and we are here in the main lobby, and we have the #1 talking podcast in the whole world.
Achievement huggers.
Achievement huggers. And then all of a sudden, like, Bernie tries to get into their room. He's just like, don't let me out!
Guys! Yeah, he starts pulling off his pants and pouring gasoline on it.
Yeah.
We can get Lavina to do the host here.
And then
What?
Well, she'll be the host. She'll just take us on a tour around the studio.
Yeah.
And in this lovely room,
Yeah.
we have
You'll need to wear a
tons of
bikini.
random props
And
that
we're
are
filming it this week, so it's going to be super fun.
coordinated.
Yeah. So
Listen,
that's one.
that's not a great idea.
No, it's we'll see how it all goes.
It's
Well,
also
thanks,
to see how
Nate.
quickly you can freeze to death.
You know, Nate's supposed to be on my side and be like, "Yeah, you got this." You know,
No,
but instead
I'm
he's like,
I'm
"Yeah."
joking around, Levine. I mean, come on.
This room is our
could
cold
you imagine
room.
you like going around this place being as cold as it is? You'd be in like 3 coats, 4 hats, and you'd just be like, "Hey everyone, welcome to the studio." Jesus Christ, it's cold. Okay, so what we're gonna be doing is, okay, I need hot chocolate. Jacob, don't you laugh at me. Give me hot chocolate now. Oh God, I need a cigarette. Oh damn it, I quit smoking. Why? Yeah, so that's what I imagine it'll be like.
You're gonna go to one of our film sets one day. It's gonna be like Alaska, just to get some Alaskan, I don't know,
Wilderness.
dog race footage or
Wilderness
something
or
like
something.
that.
Yeah,
We're
like
gonna go up there and
like
shoot.
for iron wheelers and shit like
Listen,
that.
I complain everything about the cold. I don't care. I mean, if it's cold, I'm
What
gonna
if
tell
they
you if you don't know.
Wonder if they actually
Just
filmed the gray.
No,
in
it's
Alaska.
fine.
I
don't
hate
mind
the
that.
I have
cold.
no
Like, I
idea.
despise it.
Do what now?
Wonder where they filmed the gray.
Oh, the Gray.
into
I
the Gray?
That was
filmed
in
that in
Alaska.
Saskatchewan, I believe.
Really?
Either Saskatchewan or Saskatoon, I believe. It's one of the southern Canadian provinces that have like very mountainous areas and actually
So
have
kinda
like
looks like
it's
Alaska.
actually really beautiful. Brock Lesnar lives there. That's one thing I fear. I'm just gonna go out there on a hiking trek and all of a sudden get shot, and Brock Lesnar's gonna be like, "I'm gonna eat that for lunch." Just like put me over the
Jesus.
shoulder and cook me up over a fire. I'm gonna be tied up, be like, "Mr. Lesnar, can you please let me down, Mr. Lesnar?" And all of a sudden he hits me in the head. He's like, "Food don't talk, me eat."
I thought it was so funny because like he was sponsored by like those jerky links people,
Yeah.
and Jack Links and stuff like that. So instead of like regular protein shakes, man, he just had fridge fulls of beef jerky, and I'm like, that sounds like heaven.
Well, it is.
I would
dude.
love
I mean,
to eat beef jerky all the
is.
time.
Well, Brock Lesnar is a beef eating.
Yeah.
He hunts. He hunts his own food.
That's his hobby.
And
He's like an outdoorsy,
Yeah.
hunting, beef jerky eating Sasquatch. I mean, it's
Yeah,
what he is.
gigantic, blonde-haired, muscle-bound, pale as snow white dude
Yeah,
just out there
he's
just
he's
killing
very
things
pale.
and eating them. I'm afraid that'll happen to me because he'll just see me. He'll be like, "Is that a Sasquatch or a bear? Don't care." Pow. And on top of everything that's happening here, also in video gaming,
Lord.
you know,
Here we go.
Resident Evil, Kingdom Hearts, and all that, and also some stuff that's happening as well. Metroid Prime 4, which I was very excited for, has been pushed back, delayed, and they're going to restart development all the way back at the beginning. But the studio that's taking it over is Retro Studios, the original studio that did the first 3 Metroid Prime games.
Yep.
So I'm very excited about that. I can't wait to see what they're going to do. And plus, if anything, that's just a reassurance that Nintendo doesn't want to put out a subpar. I shouldn't just say a subpar, another
right.
subpar Metroid game.
Yeah.
Like what we got with Other M.
I
'Cause
mean,
Other M
it's,
just
it's
like
too risky as far as all the development costs that are going to go into it. You can't have with all these great AAA games that are coming out. I mean, think about it. I mean, you're competing with God of War 4.
You're competing with the new Last of Us.
Yeah, the new Last of Us is going. Well, I was talking about games that just came out and set the bar.
Oh,
for this
okay,
direction,
okay.
And Red Dead, and then of course
The new
Resident Evil 2, which everybody that I've talked to so far says is awesome. I haven't had a chance to play anything new here lately, but don't worry, I'll catch up.
Well, it is. Resident Evil 2, I mean, I watched some of Nick's gameplay of it, and it looks amazing, it plays amazing, and it pretty much fixes a lot of the issues that people had with the third-person, like, over-the-shoulder third-person Resident Evil game, because Resident Evil 7...
I'm pretty sure that's the perfect formula for the Resident Evil games.
I think
Resident Evil
so.
4 set the bar for it, and
Yeah.
I think everybody can agree that Resident Evil 4 was the last greatest Resident Evil game really came out. That was not a remake.
Up until 7. Seven
Yeah.
did
Well,
a lot of
7's
things really
completely
good.
different, though.
Well, it is. It is different. It's the first-person perspective,
Yeah.
which I think one thing that they should do for certain for the games is give you the option to play first-person or third-person.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be that difficult to do that. You'd just be shifting the camera from here to over the shoulder back here, which I think either way you want to play the game. If you want to play first-person, you can, or if you want to play third-person, you can.
Yeah.
But for me, they said they couldn't make third person horrifying like they did with the fixed cameras that they had in the original Resident
Well, I
Evil.
mean, you'd be able to use the third person camera to your advantage to like look around corners and stuff, right?
Well, that's what they said, but then but the reason why Resident Evil 2 is so scary, from what a lot of people said, is that it puts you in situations where even if you have the advantage of a third person camera and better aiming mechanics and all that, it still is terrifying because the situations that you're put in, there's going to be some situations you can't shoot your way out of, or like pull a Leon S. Kennedy and just ninja kick your way out of it. You're actually going to have to, because whenever a zombie, even a zombie that's cut in half, still crawling on the ground to come and get you, little ankle biters like that.
Yeah.
I hate those guys, but everything I've seen with it, and also there's the looming dread and looming terror of Mr. X, or the Tyrant.
Yeah.
And it's always there chasing you down, and you can hear its footsteps in the distance, and you're just like, oh crap, it's looking for me. Oh crap, it's looking for me. And then all of a sudden you get to one door and you hear the footsteps. You're like, okay, it's behind me. And then you open the door and it's actually on the other side of the door that you just opened. You're just like, and then you turn around and bolt it. Because Nick actually showed me a clip from someone's Twitch that happened. Like he hears Mr. X coming, and he gets to the door, opens the door, and Mr. X is just on the other side of the door. He's like, nope, closes the door and bolts it the other way. Just
it's like the Xenomorph in Alien Isolation.
Yeah, effectively like that, except Mr. X, he doesn't respawn back to the beginning. You can knock him down for a little bit, but you can't kill him. There's almost nothing you can do to kill him, but he gets back up, and then he resumes the chase. However much damage you do to him that knocks him down, he's out for like a random interval, like 30 seconds or a minute, and it gives you just enough time to where I think you can go around and you can get that, get the stuff done that you need to, or you can hide from him, and he'll give up on chasing you down and just go somewhere else looking for you, and then it'll give you an opportunity to do that. But it's best, but on the most difficult versions of the game, it's always recommended that you avoid Mr. X at all costs. Either you run around him, either you hide from him, or he'll just kill you every time, because on the most hardcore difficulties, it's pretty much just one shot and you're dead. One shot from him and you're dead. Whereas on the other ones, I think you can take 2 or 3 hits from him and then you're still okay. But I think was it the one difficulty you were playing on, Nick, that it was one shot, one kill, pretty much? Resident Evil 2. Mm.
And nothing really dies. Like, you very rarely will actually permanently kill something.
Damn.
So you run out of ammo real quick. You're mostly putting enough bullets into something to knock it down out of your way, and then run it.
You're gonna have to probably repeat that.
No, well, Nick pretty much just said that anything that you knock down, you never almost never permanently kill something. It's almost always coming after you, even after you pretty much the only thing that you can do to kill them permanently is like blow their head up, like off their shoulders. Yeah. That's it. Like with a shot. Yeah. And
so I will keep that in mind next time when I finally get around.
Yeah, I was watching
to
a little bit from Achievement Hunter.
I will.
Playing through it today. I was eating lunch.
Well, Lindsay and Michael, Lindsay and Michael playing it. That's actually pretty funny because where they're married and Lindsay's preggo. That's actually hilarious. But them playing it, I think that it shows you husband and wife goals right there, right? Yeah, you're playing a game together, and you enjoy playing game with your husband and wife, especially one as terrifying as that, because I'm afraid that a scare is going to happen and Lindsay's just going to go into labor, because she's pretty far along. I think she's 8 months in.
Oh wow!
But
So when you play a horror game, how do you play it?
Me. Lights
out, cranked up.
Me. Whenever I want to put, it depends on the game. Like me,
I like to scare the shit out of myself.
I have to have it pitch dark.
When I first played Dead Space, I played it in the middle of my room in the dark. It was pitch black in my room, no lights. I remember this is when I lived in
myself a few times.
This is when I lived in my mom's basement and I played on normal difficulty. And I got to say, the first time you encounter them, and it splits the elevator door open
Yeah.
and tries to come in and get you, and then the elevator door comes in and cuts its limbs off. I was just
Yeah.
like, holy crap. Like, that scared the literal shit out of me. Like, I was sitting there, like, just like I had to pause the game, just like, okay, I'm just going to grab my
buy
coat.
a new
Just,
pack of
just-
briefs after that one. 'Cause
Just
that would
take a
terrified
drink
me.
and
The
just-
sound design was so brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
It just terrified me.
well, it's
and I love
Visceral,
it.
dude. Visceral always put out great games, which, screw you, EA. But not only that, but they also had Amy Hennig that left Naughty Dog to come to work for Visceral because they were interested in making third person action games along the lines of Uncharted and stuff like that. And then the contract for Star Wars came in, and they were just like, oh my gosh, so we're going to get an Uncharted game, pretty much a Star Wars game with Uncharted mechanics and stuff like that. And it looked like we were going to get it with Star Wars 1313. But then EA just said, nope. And then
Dead.
they were developing another one, and they're just like, okay, how about this? Nope, studio's closed. And then Visceral gets shut down.
And then we got Battlefront 2.
Yeah, and then we get the massive disappointments of Battlefront 1 and 2. And then we also get EA shutting down more studios, and you even get former devs from EA, from studios that used to work under EA, begging Disney to break the contract, begging Disney to just say, screw EA, give other, honestly, what Disney needs to do is reopen LucasArts. They need to reopen the LucasArts games, and they need to just go
Dude,
back
I loved
to...
Empire at War.
Oh, yeah.
Like as RTS.
I know a lot of people didn't like the pod racing game for 64. but
No, I thought
loved
that
it.
was awesome.
Dude, I put so much time into that game. I
Yeah.
unlocked so many different pod racers. Oh,
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I liked that a lot.
I liked how the upgrade system was. The game actually went a lot more in depth than I think a lot of people realized.
I feel like I played an arcade.
and also
version of that.
and also there was a Jedi Academy, and there was also I think what was the name of that one? But the Jedi games that actually where you could actually fight and stuff like that. The third person ones, and then there was KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, which was awesome.
I played Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace for PlayStation 1, and sluggish controls once you got to take some time getting used to it and the camera angles. It was
Yeah.
actually really fun.
Yeah.
It's a good co-op game, too.
Oh yeah,
You
I
could play it
remember
with a
that.
friend. To me, that's the only way to play most games is co-op. Like
Well,
Resident
yeah.
Evil 5, the reason I loved it as much as I did is because I played the entire game co-op.
Same here
But
with
every
my cousin
person I
Zach.
know that played that single player with the AI did not have a good
frustrating.
experience. Was very
Yeah.
frustrated.
Yeah, my cousin Zach and I we played RE5 because I remember when we heard it was co-op.
Oh yeah,
When
that
we heard it was co-op,
all
we were
over.
just like, we were just like, okay, let's do this. And the co-op experience was awesome. It was
Except for the whole split screen deal where they're
Well,
tiny in the corners.
Yeah,
and
that
I
was,
was like,
a bit annoying.
Yeah,
That was-
but I had to
ugh.
move I had to sit like right in front of the TV. But of all things to consider, it's a small problem.
Yeah.
And I had a really good time playing start to finish with my friend Josh McDaniel. We beat it all the way through, and 6 came out. I did the same thing with that one, and I was like. 6, I played the Leon Kennedy story mode first, and
that's where a lot of
that
people make
was-
the mistake.
that was not. It was okay, I guess, but then when
Well-
it came into the Jake Sully, I'm just kicking and fighting martial arts the whole time, and they're
Well-
shooting, and I
well-
can't shoot back. I'm pissed.
Well, first off, the one thing for me was when I played Resident Evil 6, I looked up chronologically what Capcom wanted you to play chronologically, and they said first play Jake and Sherry.
Yeah.
Jake and Sherry's campaign first. Then play Chris and Pierce, which is which they say play it second. They say play the Leon one last.
Yeah.
And I did, and I actually had a moderately good time with the game. And then, of course, there's the one you unlock after you play all three, the Ada Wong story one, which was okay. I liked it
It was
already.
really short.
Well, yeah, but it explained a lot. It explained
It did.
how there was an evil Ada Wong, because Ada would never do stuff like that, especially to someone who knows Leon, and she never wanted to hurt anyone to that level.
Yeah.
But
I always kind of wondered on her on Resident Evil 4 for PlayStation 2. Remember the Ada Wong missions at the end of it? And
Yeah,
it kind of seemed
Assignment
it's
Ada.
like she was kind of edgy. I was like, is she on your side or is she not on your side?
she's
and then,
she's a freelancer, dude.
yeah.
That's what she is. But the only real tie that she has in the world that she cares about is someone who actually showed compassion for her, Leon. That's it. Leon's the same way. he's compassionate towards Ada, even though Ada has pretty much almost, in certain cases, left him for dead, but she always left him a way out because she knew that Leon was resourceful enough to find his way out, no matter what. I mean, it's like at the end of Resident Evil 4, you know, you got the keys from her for the jet ski, it had the little teddy bear on it, very cute. And then you had to get on the jet ski with Ashley and make it out of there. That was awesome.
That was always, Resident Evil 4, like I said, is absolute masterpiece for its time.
Well,
I mean,
and that's Shinji Mikami, dude. Shinji Mikami had an idea, he had a vision for the game, and it was executed to near perfection.
Yeah.
And for me, I remember when me and my cousin got that on GameCube. He got stuck at the village chief. He couldn't beat him. He couldn't figure out a way to beat the village chief. And I'm just like, okay, hold on. Where
the village chief?
You remember the big guy with the beard, the bald head, and the red eye, the big false red eye.
The guy who just slammed your ass.
The guy. Yeah, that guy. The Vittoris Mendez, I believe, was his name.
Yeah.
But the village chief, when you dealt with him, it was his weak spot was the base of his spine. Zach didn't know that. Zach was still trying to aim at his head, but the weakness was the base of his spine. You shot the base of his spine, and then his top half came off, and his top half pretty much went around the rafters, and then you had to go for the head.
Yep.
And then when we did
I
that,
remember.
we didn't run out of ammo that time. And I remember when he died, Zach was just like, "Oh my gosh, I've been stuck on that for like 3 days, man. Thank you so much." And I'm like,
yeah, back
no
when you used to
problem.
get stuck on games, I don't see most games you get stuck on anymore.
Well,
I guess
back-
because now we have tutorials.
Yeah, well, back then he didn't have a tutorial or anything like that.
Oh yeah, Resident Evil. I didn't have a
Push
tutorial.
A to jump, like every other fucking game.
Yeah, but then in Resident Evil 5 is where things got a little bit okay. 4, things got. There was still a few there was still some good horror aspects there, but it was an action game. Let's be honest. But there was still enough horror aspects there to really make
It was still Resident Evil.
Give you that because the bosses were absolutely terrifying, especially the one that Salazar
One
evolved
thing
into.
I'm getting kind of I guess personally disappointed on with the Resident Evil games is blob monsters. You know what I'm talking about? Just these random monsters that are
happened
just
a lot in
blobs.
5.
They're freaking
I'm like,
blobs.
That happened a lot in 5 because because
I remember.
because when they the
like I kind of want to be terrified. I'm just not terrified of a blob that just has scary music. They just
that's why
just shoot it in the fucking eyeball when it opens up.
Well,
every time.
that's one reason why I didn't like certain bosses in Resident Evil 7 because RE7, when you kill certain members of the family, like when you kill Jack and when you kill the wife as well, they've pretty much taken on aspects of the things that they care about the most. Like Jack becomes this absolute behemoth, but then you see what happens whenever he like the man shoots his own head off. The man grabs your gun from your hand, puts it up to his head. He's like, "I'm going to show you something beautiful," and then pretty much blows the top of his head off. It's just like Jesus. But then you're like, okay, he's dead now. Nope, comes right back. He's like, "You going somewhere, boy?" It's like, "Good Lord, man, what are you doing?" And then you kill after you kill him that time, you go to the wife, and she's taken on like a hive. She's almost become like a hive monster where she's a living hive. She just crawls around. Her limbs get longer, and it was creepy as hell. I loved it.
The thing that terrifies me in every game, it seems, is a chainsaw. Man, I don't know what it is about the chainsaw person in every game. Resident Evil 4, the first encounter with the chainsaw guy terrified me.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god! And when you died, and it shows it actually cut you in half.
Well, yeah, your head gets cut off.
Dude, I used to die on purpose just to see how awesome that looked.
Yeah, and for me in 7, what scared me the most was in the beginning it was almost a survivalist game because you had very limited resources. If they would have kept it that way throughout the entire game, like every now and again you'd get like a big buff, like you'd get a shotgun or something like that. But then I'd say after you fight a certain boss with that shotgun, like they break the shotgun. Like you're holding it there and you get it and you use it on them, and then all of a sudden they grab the shotgun from you and they throw it against the wall and it breaks,
Yeah.
and then you're back to square one and you have to find
Shotguns
something
are
else.
usually your best friend in every Resident Evil game. Most of the time, a shotgun is
Yeah.
That's kind
That's
of how
the
it was
main
with.
thing in any one of them.
That's kind of how it was with Alien Isolation. Like the first half of the game, it's fucking scary because there's absolutely nothing you can do.
You have no
Yeah.
defenses.
All you can hide, and that fucking alien, it'll come in your room like you're hiding in a little locker thing. Whatever.
Yeah, you gotta
It'll walk in your room, sniff around, look, and then leave. You'll step out, and here it comes. It's immediately come back like
You
motherfucker.
You just hear that.
Yeah. But
Like
then,
the old
Come right
Silent
at
you.
Hill
But-
games. Ooh.
but as soon as you get the flamethrower in the game, it's kind of like, all right, well now you can just kind of fight it off, and it loses.
Well,
that,
yeah,
that fear
it
aspect.
pretty much goes back and back to its original spawn in the level, and
And it just comes back. It's your way of temporarily killing it.
Yeah.
It's
well, it's just-
once
and you
once
can
you learn
fight
the
it off at that
mechanics
point.
of it, it's a very easy game. The game is
Yeah.
super easy.
Oh.
But man, to be honest, I don't know what's happened. I guess my impatience of the years, but anything in a game where I have to backtrack a lot, I get aggravated with.
that
That's
for
my
me-
only complaint about Doom 3, which I'm a big fan of Doom 3, by the way.
yeah,
The backtracking on that game was terrible.
yeah.
Like,
It's
God.
been so long since I
Trying to
Well,
find where the fuck
for-
do I go the
For
whole
me,
game.
if you want to do backtracking missions to some degree, at least change up the level enough to where it's original enough. Like for instance, if I would have done in Resident Evil 7, there's certain parts where you have to backtrack a little bit, not bad, but they change up the level enough. Like whenever you go back into that one part, all of a sudden something's different. Something has changed enough to where you're just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like what happened here? What's this? What's that? And I like that. I like when they do stuff like that. But overall, for me, when I see the Resident Evil games, I remember when 6 came out, everyone said that the Resident Evil franchise is dead. It's never going to recover from this. It's best just to move on to something else.
I didn't think. Well, I think people said that after the main developer left.
Oh yeah.
Because you remember he went to go make Evil Within after.
Well, that was
and-
after 4 actually.
Was it after?
Yeah,
4?
Shinji Mikami left after 4.
I thought he left on 6.
No, he left on 4, and then he actually spent the next few years. Let's see. I think. Let me double check that just to make sure. Shinji Mikami, because I remember he had the falling out with Capcom over what he wanted to do with Resident Evil 5.
Yeah.
And then let's see. Shinji.
Yeah, he
Mikami.
talked some unofficially mad shit on there too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, he left in 2006 after they told him, "Hey, you do this one game called God Hand, and we'll give you permission to do Resident Evil 5." And then he never got it.
So
And then he
think it
formed
says
Platinum Games after that, and he also did Tango Softworks and made The Evil Within.
yeah, Super Mandible Claw says people over exaggerate how bad RE6 is. I don't think it's a bad game.
No, it's not bad.
Yeah,
it's just
it's
not up to the standard of
it
what
just-
we expect
yeah.
from a Resident Evil game.
when you set the bar high with Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5 I think was just a little
It was
lower.
a step. Well, it
was
depends.
like
'Cause
maybe a
if you
step
play through
lower.
it solo, it's
Yeah,
a big
I had a
step
good
down.
time with it with with the co-op aspect of it, so I really enjoyed it. But overall, it didn't have that same feeling that 4 did.
Yeah.
So it was maybe just a step behind, but it's still great in its own right.
Yeah.
But 6, I felt fell a little too far below like 5 did.
Well,
I still
if-
played co-op on there,
well-
but I had to unlock it first, and that was aggravating.
Yeah, for me, 4. I would say is easily a 9.5, if not a 10 out of 10. I would say 5 is at least an 8.5 to 9 out of 10.
Mhm.
Whereas 7, whereas at Resident Evil 6, I would probably put, I'd say like a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. Still, I had fun with it, but just not.
Oh yeah, I mean, I still recommend playing it. If you're a Resident
Yeah.
Evil fan and you pop in 6, you're probably still going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it all the way through.
I did too.
But then Resident Evil 7. Well, yeah, Nick hates 6. That's fine, but everyone everyone's got an opinion on stuff, and I respect
Like,
people's opinion.
Mega Man X6. All right, everybody said Mega Man X1, 2, 3, and 4 were great, and then X5 dropped the ball. Then 6 dropped even harder. I still played X5 and 6. I still had a great time with them. Were they as good as X1, 2, 3, and 4? Not quite, but they're great in their own right. You know, they're not 10s, but still, it's all about if you enjoy it or not. If you enjoy it, it's a good game.
Yeah,
I mean, that's all that really matters. So.
that's what, and you see, that's one thing about remaking games nowadays. Like people say, oh, why are people remaking games nowadays? If anything, if I were a studio, I would go back to a game that had enormous potential and had some good stuff about it, but yet because of either time constraints or limitations in software at the time, they weren't able to pull it off. For me, I would go back and I would redo the game Headhunters. Have you all ever played Headhunters?
I have not.
It came out on the Dreamcast, and it was actually a game where you play a bounty hunter. He was a disgraced bounty hunter. Actually, no, he was a former disgraced cop who became a bounty hunter because he saved the life of this one really rich guy, and his daughter pretty much introduced him to the world of being a bounty hunter. And it was really cool. You actually could go around the city, find different bounties and stuff like that, chase them down. But when it came out on the Dreamcast, they had a certain version that came out on the Dreamcast was really good. But the PS2 version, which was the more popular one, it lost a lot of its luster, and the gameplay was clunky as hell.
Yeah.
If I were a studio, I would see if I could seek the rights out for that, and I would redo it. I would remake it, especially in the open world era that we live in now. But I would still make it linear enough to where you follow the main missions enough to where and also I would make the driving mechanics a lot more fun, because that was one part of the game that was really clunky, was the driving mechanics, and it made getting from one mission to the other very, very taxing on the mind.
If you go back and like I'll pop in Kingdom Hearts, for example.
Yeah.
I have the original Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 for PlayStation 2, and oh my god, those controls are just a nightmare.
Yeah,
and
they fix a lot of it in the remasters and like 1.5 and 2.5
big
remakes.
Twisted Metal fan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a Sweet Tooth tattoo, but man, you go back and play some of those controls are horrendous. It was like
Three.
oh my god, how do we
Stories like
ever
the
play like
D-pad.
that?
Well,
and
2 and 3 were awesome. 2 and 3 had really good, really tight
Yeah.
controls.
4 was a little
4 was
cartoonish.
off a little in certain areas.
Yeah, I popped in Twisted Metal 1 the other day, and I was like, holy crap, these controls are just awful. How do we ever
I never
play
played
this?
the first one, actually.
Yeah, the first one was
First
alright.
first one's actually the easiest one. I beat that one pretty simply. Yeah, I like that. It's got a very strange vibe and feel
Yeah,
to it. But
well,
man, like
yeah.
I go back and play almost all my PlayStation 1 games. Most of the controls are pretty clunky.
Yeah.
Except for Mega Man. Mega Man X was smooth as butter. I still think they're the smoothest
Well,
playing platforming games I've
Well,
ever
it's
played.
the 2D aspect versus the 3D aspect.
Yeah.
The 2D aspect makes things so much.
Yeah, they had pretty much almost perfected the 2D aspect, side-scrolling, by the time the PlayStation was around.
Well-
but the industry was wanting to push toward 3D.
Well,
And-
and it's taken the 3D realm a while to be fully figured out, especially when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to the control schemes. Because I went back and I played Super Mario 64, and I love that game. I love
Mm-hmm.
it so much. But some of the controls in certain ways, like controlling the camera with the
One
buttons,
joystick.
with
Yeah.
one joystick and the directional buttons, was frustrating to me because I'm so used to like two analog sticks controlling the camera that way plus movement with the other one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to that. Whereas nowadays that's standard with most nowadays. Most 3D games nowadays. Whereas when you had game, like a lot of people always point out a lot of people say the best Zelda games, you know, Ocarina of Time was the first like full-fledged 3D Zelda game, and it did a lot of things right. However, I will say this, some of the bosses or some of the enemies, it's all blocking until you find your opening and then slash.
Yeah.
That's it. It's
Mo-
waiting.
almost
It's
every
waiting.
boss.
It's waiting.
Except for Ganon shooting it back and forth with
well,
him.
not only that. Well, Ganon was one, but there were
Yeah.
common enemies in certain part. The Iron Knuckles. You remember the Iron Knuckles? Those big guys in the suits of armor. They go around the room with their
Oh,
big
yeah.
axe.
Yeah,
and they would
I
try and
remember
slash. Yeah, those guys were awesome. I loved the Iron Knuckles. I thought they were
The combat control systems, I think, is what really separates the older 3D games from the 2D now, or I'm sorry, newer 3D games, is dual joysticks. That really did not become a major function until early 3D shooters, really kind of like Halo.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I played it, I was like, oh, it's so smooth. The dual joysticks just...
Yeah.
I mean, the whole aiming system was so brilliant. And, like, right with the N64, GoldenEye, that was some of the most craziest controls I ever had for a shooter, but we got used to it, and nobody complained about it back then.
Well,
'cause
nobody complained about it, but
So that's all we had.
But there's actually a mod that people have made for GoldenEye. It's with a mouse that you play with a mouse on the computer, and actually that's the way to play it because it's buttery smooth, and there's very little to no like. You remember the aiming that you had to do with like the reticle? Like you can have that active all the time on the screen and just be like,
wow.
yeah, and that's awesome. I love doing that.
Yeah,
But-
that would make that game a lot easier.
Oh, and it did. It made Donkey actually. Video Game Donkey is actually the one who introduced me to it, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I like this a lot better.
Yeah, you can own
and-
somebody with that golden gun, just go bam.
Just like it's like dead. And I also I remember back when the cheats were a thing. I remember actually I activated like the ghost cheat where I could like walk through walls and I was invisible. What I did was I went to the one room where Jaws was, and I got up right in front of him. I pointed the golden gun right at his teeth, and I shot him right in the teeth. He goes down, he's dead, and everyone in the room starts freaking out and just starts shooting at nothing. I'm just like, what the hell?
Like, what?
That's funny.
I was like, yeah, awesome.
So, Lavina, what's been going on in the Overwatch world?
Oh yeah, that's
Listen, I don't have time to play anymore, so
oh
No.
it's not funny.
Well, if it's any consolation, none of us have any time to play.
Yeah, I know we have a.
We're all kind
And
of
playing alone sucks, by the way, because you get
Mhm.
these randoms that really don't know what the.
You have a lot of
fuck
people
they're
that
doing.
swear by, pugging your games and just going in alone. They said that's the only way to really climb, because when you 6-stack, it'll put you up against other 6-stacks. But to me, that's kind of like a cop-out. It's kind of
Yeah.
like,
You gotta get like a 5-man team, and then like one.
no,
extra.
it'll put you against 5-man teams.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
For me,
fine.
There's
well,
no balance breaking on it.
I
Like,
need
what
my
I would
Let's
do-
make a
team
new
here.
account.
well, what I've done when it comes to it is I instead just play free for all.
Yeah.
I do free for all, like they do Chateau,
Get
Hollywood.
really
See, I
good.
like the mystery heroes. I usually play that when I'm playing alone
Yeah.
because it also helps me get better at other characters than my mains.
Well,
So
I've been doing like McCree. Like I've been working on my like shooter ever since I got like that high refresh rate monitor.
Yeah, working that precision.
Yeah, I've been working on the precision shooting and all that. I've got my DPI really good. I've got everything where I really like it, and that 144 hertz refresh monitor makes things so much easier to shoot. Like,
Yeah.
because there's no ghosting. Like when I get a headlock on somebody, pow pow dead, pow pow dead. Like with McCree, I remember I headshot. I rolled. I headshotted twice. I headshotted Reinhard from the side. He turns his shield towards me. I wait. I wait back behind it. He comes charging right at me. I come out the door. I unload on him, and then he drops his shield, and then I throw the stun bomb at him. I roll behind him, and then I point my gun right at the back of his head. Pow, 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 pow. I get 3 headshots, and then he's dead. I'm like,
So you think like your refresh rate increase your accuracy quite a bit?
it has,
so.
because the ghosting that happens on 60 hertz refresh monitors, I've noticed it now that I've played on it a lot more, and
Okay.
it's a lot easier to play on. I mean, heck, Nick played Resident Evil 2 with like very high settings, and it reached 144 hertz easy. And would you say that do you notice it any whenever you play on it, Nick? Yeah, I'd like to bring it over one day and let you all see it, or actually like y'all come over and see it. Like, if y'all are interested, because
Oh, yeah, 'cause I mean-
they're getting a lot cheaper now, especially the 144 hertz panels. This one I got, the Scepters, actually on the Scepter one only cost me, I think it was 160, and it's a 24-inch monitor, and it's curved, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I like to have a
man.
curved
The
monitor.
curve monitors are cool. I got a couple
Yeah.
of them. They're
Yeah,
1080.
that's
They're only
right.
1080, but
Well,
they're cool.
mine's only 1080 as well.
Yeah.
But I don't mind being 1080 as long as it's at 144 hertz refresh. I'm
Mhm.
just like,
That's an old
Ugh.
school. I remember playing Quake and everything. We used to always run them like 120
yeah,
hertz and stuff. But there's CRT monitors back then with Unreal Tournament and tournaments back in. I remember I always ran them up like really fast paced like that. And somehow, I don't know, I guess games just started doing it with the flat screens. Everybody just went default 60, which is fine.
I think
I haven't had any issues out of it, but I think having that 144 made a big difference in my accuracy back then too.
well,
'Cause
yeah,
it seemed just super smooth.
well, yeah. But the big thing with monitors, how they've changed, how CRTs used to work with their connector, the analog signal had almost no delay. As
Yeah.
long as the cable length wasn't above, I think, like 25 feet, there was
Mhm.
no delay.
It's 19 feet on
Or
USB.
19, okay, so 19 feet.
19 on USB. I'm not sure how the new USB stuff works, like 3.0.
3.0 is a lot shorter. 3.0
Okay.
is like, I think it's 8 feet without a repeater cable.
Yeah,
And-
I know. Like USB-C's got a pretty long length on it too. Plus, I mean, hell, I can use HDMI up to 4K through USB-C, which is impressive to me.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, they can do all that with that tiny cable. I'm like,
Oh
hell
yeah, it's the cable, like how they're able to push processing stuff through cables is amazing nowadays. Like me, I've got repeaters now for a lot of my webcams and stuff. Whenever I need distance, that's like at the School of Morton, the wrestling school. I've hung up two webcams from the ceiling, and I've ran repeater cables up to them and down over to the wall where I'm set up at.
Yeah.
So that's what I've had to do with that, and
You just have to accept the delay, pretty much.
no, there's no delay.
Oh, is there
There's
not?
because the repeater cable prevents that from
It
happening.
just repowers.
Where
it.
instead, actually, if you have a cable length over, I think it's 19 feet, the 15-footer, the 15-foot regular cables that you can get that don't have a repeater cycler on it, then there's pretty much nothing you can do. Like anything over that, the signal won't come through.
Yeah.
And that's why I do the
I've
repeaters.
had a lot of problems with USB stuff.
Yeah,
Not
well-
very trustworthy on USB stuff. And
Well, that's why I always recommend getting repeater cables instead of just the regular ones, because even if you only need like a 10-footer, the repeater cable is always going to be there to make sure you do not lose video signal. That's
always
why I
good.
use those. But
Alrighty.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm happy to report that Ace Combat 7 appears to be a success.
yes.
I played through it probably about 3 times now, so it's, I'm on the Ace difficulty. I'm hoping I get some cool like sci-fi plane out of it, but if not, then
Yeah,
probably.
like a prototype,
Yeah.
like sci-fi plane or something.
Yeah, there's
that.
one in there called the EXO 25 Strike Wyvern or something. It's a cool, like the wings can fold in if you're
From
going
what
up,
I seen,
so.
you were crashing into the mountains.
Well,
That's-
you know what?
that reminds
Here's
me
the
of this
thing.
movie
When
Stealth.
it
Back when
fucking,
you were starting, I just seen you going.
I wonder.
You're like, oh fuck, boom! Just
I
right
wonder
to
if
the
that's
side
like
of
the
well,
most
where,
hill.
like, and then I just bounce off, and it is some silly. There's a couple silly mechanics. I kind of wish they didn't have that because it'd make it even more challenging. But
Well, you lose barometric pressure if you get too close. I mean, you would just drop.
I'm pretty sure if I hit the mountain, I would have.
Oh,
just
you're dead.
exploded. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the game, it allows you to bounce off a few times. so-
Nah, you'll be alright. You'll walk it off.
Even on Ace mode, which I don't understand, on the hardest difficulty.
Yeah,
But overall, I mean, I've seen some of like that as far as like the reviews and stuff on YouTube. It seems like everybody generally likes it.
yeah.
Sounds
It's
enjoyable.
got, I think, like an average of an 8.3 or an 8.4 out of 10.
I don't think
to
a whole.
most aspects.
I don't think a whole lot of people know. It's not like a big mainstream like Call of Duty or Battlefield or anything. So I think it's like,
Well,
this is cool.
Well,
Flying
it was
is
whenever
kinda-
4 was out. Whenever 4 was out, that's all people would talk about because a lot of people thought Ace Combat 4 was the pinnacle of where Ace
that was
Combat
my
would be.
first one that I got into was 4.
I love my
I
joystick.
love it. Yeah.
Especially on Mech Warrior.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, there's
Actually, I use my joystick on the left on Mech Warrior, and I use my mouse to aim.
that's cool.
For precision. And this just has my throttle right here, so I just push my speed forward, twist my torso right here, and just boom.
Nice.
AC-40s, cannons, just take out their leg in one shot.
Yeah.
Let them live.
I think everybody likes. I think a lot of people's favorite is Ace Combat 0, where they're like the
Yeah.
Vulcan War. Mine personally, I think is Ace Combat 5. I kind of like
Four was the last one I played. Damn good game.
Yeah.
Haven't kept
Before
up with them since. so-
compared to like 5 and 6, 4 didn't really have. I mean, it had a basic story kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, the like the cutscenes were like artistic still art and stuff, and it was
Mhm.
interesting. But yeah, like 4 or 5 and especially 5 and especially 0, they have really good stories with them. This one, the story's kind of like first playthrough was like, all right, it's all over the place a little bit, but after playing through it a couple more times, it's a little bit better. I like it.
Well,
Good.
yeah. It seems to me that a lot of video game devs out there, story's coming secondary now. It's like
Yeah.
they're not taking
I'm
it as
not a
seriously
fan of that.
anymore.
I don't like
Yep,
that at all.
including like with Black Ops. I'm not the biggest Call of Duty fan anyway, but I heard that was a huge hit on stuff like that. Fortnite, obviously,
well-
it's very Overwatch. Yes, it seems that
Such a
story
rich lore.
is you have to focus on one or the other, and I think if they really did focus on both, just imagine like if God of War had a massively multiplayer thing out there. That would
that'd
cost
even
so
work.
much more money to do that than it would be to focus on
Well,
that. And I don't know, it's kind of hard, but games like Halo did a great job at it. The very first Halo, single player, thought was amazing, and multiplayer carried on years later, and I still play them both, you know?
well,
Excuse me, I think all the Halos are good except for Halo 5. But
Yeah.
aside from 5, all the Halo single players are good.
well, yeah.
Yeah, I cannot deny that. Wasn't a fan of ODST.
I didn't really care for the. We're gonna listen to jazz music as we're shooting aliens. But,
Yeah, well,
but-
that's one thing that Marty O'Donnell, the composer, he wanted to do that, and the people at Bungie were just like, what?
He's too classical a little bit. He needs a lot more energy
Yeah.
on there, but he does a great job
Well, that's
with
why
game music.
he always worked with Michael Salvatori. Salvatori
Yeah.
was always his he was the mad scientist to Marty's straight laced guy.
Yeah.
Marty had the good tones that set a good scene, but it was Michael's idea to bring in Steve Vai for Halo 2.
Yeah.
And
On the guitar part.
yeah, on the guitar, because Michael always wanted to do a heavier version of it where that brought in guitars because he thought it would fit very well, and it did. In Halo 2, it fit perfectly, especially because the fight was coming to Earth.
Yeah. Personally, I think the best part of ODST was that kick-ass live-action trailer they made for it, where it's showing the dude going through almost like Spetsnaz training or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was cool.
Uh,
And then the game didn't do that.
You know who actually? I think you know who did the trailer? Who did that trailer?
No.
Neil Blomkamp. I think he was the director of that. He did District 9
Yeah,
and
he's got all that.
Elysium.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Chappie.
yeah.
I still haven't seen Chappie yet.
Oh,
Eh.
you haven't seen Chappie yet?
No,
Chappie's
I need.
okay.
I think I have.
Listen.
But-
It's a very different movie than what you're expecting.
yeah. Is it, well, I mean,
Remember, Die Antwoord is the
but
main.
it exists in
Yolandi.
in the,
Yeah, sorry.
Fucking ninja.
Yolandi.
it exists in the same kind
Do you
of
want to be a bad
universe
boy
as
gangster?
District 9,
Oi.
right?
Kind
I
of very
love them.
very similar.
My brother's
Nothing to do
obsessed
with
with
each other,
them. Yeah.
but they're very
He got to go
similar
see
in
them,
their
Like
atmosphere.
that kind of post
The South African
postmodern, whatever, post
yeah, definitely like that.
or not necessarily post-apocalyptic,
But it
like
was a really good
It was
movie.
a
I
good
enjoyed it.
corporations
I enjoyed
run
it.
everything in the world, and the world is just terrible kind of environment.
Just like Elysium.
Yeah,
Except
exactly.
now there's a sentient mech for some reason.
Oh yeah.
And I liked Chappie all right. I think people went into it with the wrong idea. People who went to watch it went in with the wrong idea. They were expecting like a District 9.
I was too. Yeah.
And I love District 9. I thought District 9 was a very well done film, especially for how cheap it was done. Because they only made that film for, I think, $30 million. And I
Yeah.
know that sounds like a lot of money, but by most Hollywood blockbuster standards, that's nothing.
Yeah.
That's absolute.
Yeah,
that's
the
drivel.
final battle in District 9 is fucking.
Oh,
I
there's
amazing.
a
I
copyright
just
strike.
had to pull
Yeah.
it up.
That's a copyright claim.
Yeah, let's not do
All
that.
right.
It's okay.
It's more than
Uh,
just a few second clip.
Yeah.
You talk about Steve Vai, and he's like, "Yeah, I
Um,
really wanted to hear that."
yeah.
lick."
The final battle in District 9 is fucking awesome.
Oh, yeah.
with the
Yes.
mech and everything.
Yeah.
the
you-
effects on that were just killer.
But I liked Elysium too.
Oh,
was
Elysium,
pretty-
I thought was really well done. I think the biggest drawback for me was Jodie Foster not being able to pick an accent. Like she was like South African one instant, and then French another one, and then British another one. I'm like, Jodie, pick an accent. Come on.
I don't know what's the actor's name, the dude, the main character in District 9,
Charlton Copley.
because he was also Kruger in Elysium
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
right?
Oh well,
like,
that's
well,
one
okay, this
thing
is
about
meta.
Neil Blomkamp. Neil Blomkamp always casts
The same dude.
Charlton Copley in a role because him and Charlton Copley came up together.
Okay.
Charlton became an actor, whereas Neil became a filmmaker, and it's good to build a relate. It's a lot like Scorsese does that a lot. Scorsese in his early days, De Niro was his man. De Niro was it from all the way from Taxi Driver to Goodfellas. De Niro was his guy, and then in the 2000s, all of a sudden, everyone was just like Scorsese only did movies with Leo DiCaprio, and now and after that decade of success with DiCaprio, he's moved on to someone else. See, he used De Niro for a solid 15, 20 years almost, but and now there's talk that Scorsese actually wants to do a film with both De Niro and DiCaprio, which
No, that's not gonna get confusing at all.
No, well, of course it won't be because De Niro's like a lot older.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the name.
Well,
one's
no,
Italian and
they're,
one's
they're
German,
two
so what
total
do you
different
expect?
actors, though. So
Right.
Well,
they don't
one's,
even look anything alike. Or
yeah.
Yeah.
Just let me have my joke, all right?
No, okay.
Well,
Sorry.
De Niro, DiCaprio, yeah.
I got you.
It's De Niro and DiCaprio.
Anyways.
I hear you,
But yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, I like that. He's interesting. That kind of pulled off the South African accent pretty good. Fucking prawn.
well, no, he actually is South African.
Yeah.
Well, it's South African is of course a person who does a South African accent is it's got a little bit of German
He's like-
there, a little bit of Australian, and a little bit of English as well.
He's the nicest asshole in the world.
Of course he is. It's like, oh, you see that there? That's a gun. I'm about to shoot you in the face with it. Do you want me to do that? No. Well, too bad. I want to.
It's like they're like burning the I forget what the actual name of.
Oh,
it is.
the little the pods.
the eggs and stuff. Like,
Yeah, he's like,
oh, you
can
hear that pop?
They're
You hear
like
that pop? You hear
popcorn.
that pop?
Pop, 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 pop. You listen to that. That's pretty
Dude, I'm
funny.
pretty sure that's genocide, but okay.
It is, because it's their kids.
I know. That's what I like about the movies though. It's like it's just so
So,
dark.
hello there,
and-
Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, hello. We're requesting that you evacuate your premises as soon as possible. And I didn't quite understand that click, but I'm pretty sure it was something not nice. Charlton's a
God.
great actor. He actually, when Neil Blomkamp was in the pipeline to make the new Alien film, he wanted Charlton Copley to play the Xenomorph, because Charlton Copley contacted. He's like, "Are you really going to do an Alien film?" And Neil's like, "Yeah, looks like it." And Charlton had one request. He's like, "Can I be in it, please?" And Neil's just like, "You know what? I'm gonna make you a Xenomorph." And Charlton's like, "Really? Awesome!"
No way.
He's like, I get to be an alien, because Charlton is like a very multi-talented actor. Like, not only does he he can pull off emotion really well, but he can also pull off comedy, and he can also pull off. There was one that came out on Amazon called Get the Gringo. Mm-hmm. He was hilarious in that because he played this completely amoral like bodyguard who was supposed to protect David Oyelowo's character the whole way through. And David Oyelowo plays this American, Nigerian American sales rep for this pharmaceutical company, and he's like down on the ground. He's like, "Oh, thank you, God, thank you so much." And then all of a sudden, Charlton's just like, "Do you really believe in God, man?" And then all of a sudden, David's like, "Of course I believe in God. I mean, it's a miracle that I'm still alive now, and it's no thanks to you. So why wouldn't I believe in God?" And then all of a sudden, Charlton goes, "Well, I've debated it personally all my life." And he just starts going on this whole philosophical journey in his mind. And then he turns
Lord.
around and looks, and he gets hit by a car and goes flying back.
Oh, great.
It's like, God dang it. It's like they just got away from these assholes. But yeah, it's a very funny movie. It also has Charlize Theron in it. She actually plays one of the bosses at the pharmaceutical company. And she gives a speech that's absolutely hilarious. She's talking to these investors, and she's like, "Do you know why people remember Neil Armstrong instead of Buzz Aldrin?" And then the guys at the table were just like, "That's because of his name. His name sounds a lot more professional, like Armstrong, instead of Aldrin. It's like all this and all that. It's like Aldrin sounds like a bad Tylenol replacement." And then all of a sudden she goes, "No, because he had the balls to put because Neil Armstrong pushed Buzz Aldrin's ass out of the way and was the first one to step on the moon." And then all of a sudden they just go, "Well, damn, okay." That's because she was trying to pitch like them being the first investors in their new pharmaceutical drug, which is pretty much like the first medical marijuana pill. And she was doing everything she could to get them to invest. Like she wore a very a very tight fitting white button up shirt, and she unbuttoned like the top 3 buttons. She's just like, watch and learn. And she just used that to her advantage. And Charlize Theron, yet another South African. A lot of people don't know that she's South African. A lot of people actually... Well, she's a naturalized American citizen, but she was born and raised in South Africa.
You see Atomic Blonde?
Oh, yes. She... Knockout in that. Dude.
That was...
She's a badass in that. And also...
It was such a... The twist in that was not like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely, you only get that once, but...
Oh, of course,
definitely
that's
good.
how most twists are.
Mhm.
It's the only one that you get multiple times is like the movie Memento. Have you ever seen it? It's
I
because
don't think so, no.
because there's a twist that happens in that at the end, and then when you go back and rewatch the film, you get to relive not only the twist again, but you see how the twist was able to hit you so hard by noticing everything else that happens throughout the film by watching it the second time.
Have you seen Atomic Blonde?
I have, yes.
So I like it because it's not the standard, James Bond, look, he's kicking everybody's ass and he's not even taking a punch and everything. But in fucking Atomic Blonde, Charlize there, she's fucking, it looks like she's getting her shit kicked as she's, fighting.
You know that film actually had people that got dragged by the neck?
The hose and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they had
They actually, like, the stunt people were coordinated with it, with their momentum, and they literally got dragged by the neck all the way up, like the scene where she jumps off the balcony, and pulls him through there and hangs him, whatever. They actually jump that off there, but the rope doesn't pull that all the way down. There's still plenty of slack, but the way they kind of pull it tight a little bit, it makes it feel like that.
Well,
there's some great stunts in that movie.
The guy who directed that is David Leitch. He was one of the directors of the first John Wick film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and he's
that
actually
explains why.
Well, he's also the director of the second Deadpool movie, and I will say this: the action and stunts that were in Deadpool 2, way more risky and way higher quality than the first one. But David Leitch is actually in talks of doing him and Chad Stahelski are in dire straits, like trying to beg the the film companies, hey, we want to remake the Highlander films. We want to remake the Highlander movies and do it good, do it justice. And the studio's just like, nobody remembers Highlander. And all of a sudden, they sent out a tweet saying there can be only, I think it was said there can be only one. And then they had like over 100,000 retweets from fans, just like it's like Highlander.
Yeah, I'm about to say, just because something wasn't a great movie does not mean it did not have a big impact. People notoriously look at the Mortal Kombat movies as cheesy, bad movies, but I don't think they realized how big that movie was at its time. I mean,
the first one, especially.
There was no kid in my class had not seen Mortal Kombat.
Agreed.
I mean, to be honest, man, like it was obsession, not just the games, but the movie. Even Annihilation, which most people can agree it's bad.
Yeah, it is.
It's pretty bad, but I watched that movie 1,000 times as a kid. When I was this tall, dude, I thought that movie was awesome.
That's how Independence Day is for me. I mean, obviously, looking back, obviously it's total cheese.
Oh yeah, you can go back and watch.
But it's
my brother actually watched Mortal Kombat. My brother is pretty much half my age, and he had never played a Mortal Kombat game. But I don't think he had ever played a fighting game other than I think some of the PS2 Dragon Ball Z games. But he had never actually sitting and played it. We sitting and played Mortal Kombat, and he had a blast. He's like, I have to go buy this. This is awesome. I'm like, yeah, go back and play the originals. And yeah, it's like a timeline of gore and madness. And you ever play a game that's like, oh, dude, this game is designed to really just make you hate your life, and that's how Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero was for N64.
Yeah.
Oh man. Or I'm sorry, I played the PlayStation version of it actually.
The PlayStation version's good.
Yeah, it has cinematics in it. I didn't realize that. I was like,
oh yeah.
Whoa.
The N64 version, it wasn't able to have a lot of that.
You're talking about a game that's broken as hell. Even with cheat codes, I still could not beat that game.
Most people couldn't. Most people couldn't.
Just constant death.
Yeah.
Like. And I just remember games having that tone and feel. Silent Hill is another. It seemed impossible sometimes.
I know that game's.
My parents played through. So I was too young to really get any of that shit. But yeah, they. I didn't care, but they sat down for hours on end just fucking trying to play through Silent Hill.
Yeah, my parents never played that. We watched the movie in
lockers,
theaters.
Yeah,
and you ran for that big man.
Movie.
Oh yeah, the pyramid head, wasn't it?
So
that movie was.
Lavina was pointing out a couple things. We were discussing Saw, the series. James Wan, which, if you ask me, I think Saw 1, 2, and 3 were like masterpieces.
Yeah.
I think after that it kind of went down.
Well,
she showed me, which Saw was it? I see. I haven't watched them past 4.
It's the one where they're
Sorry,
outside of
phone call.
New York.
Andrew is calling me. I
The
don't
one
think so.
where the
I do not think so. On
the
that
two
one.
boyfriends and they got the girl.
oh, that's
the player.
that's the last one. I think that's Saw 7. I think.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
they were like a
There's
city
7 of
street.
them?
It was horrible.
Oh man.
No, there's 8 now because of Jigsaw. Yeah.
It was horrible.
Well, I know that. Well, the one that had them, they're like all of a sudden they're sitting there and they both have their hands on the slider, and in the middle there's this saw that is
In
just,
the middle.
It's a buzz saw that if it goes too far one direction, it'll cut down one guy. If it goes too far another direction, it'll cut down the other. But if it stays in the middle, it'll cut down the girl who has been hamstringing both of the guys along the entire time.
Yeah.
And this was happening in the middle of like a very populated area, like people,
But
instead
it
of
just-
trying to break the things down,
They're out
instead
there
they pulled
filming
out their
their phones.
phones and started to. I'm like,
just
no,
like-
I'd grab an axe and try and get them the hell out of
But
there.
the thing about it is,
That's modern
you're
culture.
taking a brilliant, great idea of Saw with a beautifully complex story that was actually scary, great cinematography, to something that's just like a joke. Just
It's dragging it.
It
just
was-
creating
It
some
was
traps, and
really.
you're not even talking about dragging on. You're just talking about just ruining a good system, you know. And I think for every major series, they always beat it like a dead horse. You know,
Well, whenever it's popular enough, yeah.
Saw, they've beaten the fuck out of it. I don't
Well, Saw
understand.
1 was the only one that was directed by James Wan. He was on for production of 2 and 3.
Yeah.
He was a producer on those.
yeah, because he
but-
made enough money to
well,
produce the next ones after that.
But not only that, but the writer of the film, too. The writer, Leigh Whannell.
Yeah.
He was the writer of the first 3 films. And then after that, I think Darren Lynn Bousman took
Yeah,
over.
once Jigsaw died and they started handing off the baton to just random
Yeah, to
people,
Amanda
it
and
made
the
no sense to me
detective.
because what made Jigsaw so awesome was his brilliance. It was
the
corrupted mind. He was a genius in the way he set up the traps and everything. And you have to think of a true mastermind that gets away from the hackers, that does all this, and even the kidnapping part and everything. But then when you hand it off to just random people, I was like, come on. I no longer became interested after Jigsaw died.
Well, for me,
You know?
the third
Did
one
that
was the
actor die?
last good one.
Did the actor for Jigsaw pass away?
Tobin Bell, I think Tobin Bell's still alive. Actually, let me
I
double
don't
check
know
that.
either.
I actually watched a tutorial the other day on how to do a Jigsaw voice.
Just because he seems like he's like 90 years old or something. So.
Well, he's not actually he's not actually that old. Right now he's 76, but when he did the first Saw movie, that was 15 years. He was in his his early 60s.
Well, he
was-
played the part well.
Well, it's because he naturally has the old man look about him. Because I remember actually the first movie I ever saw him in that I can remember was Mississippi Burning. Did you ever see that with Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe?
I did not.
They were a pair of FBI investigators down there investigating the 3 civil rights activists who went missing.
Yeah.
And turns out the sheriff's department had a hand in their murder and
yeah.
all that. It was a hell of a movie, but he was actually one of the FBI agents that Gene Hackman brought in, who was actually like a roughhouser. Like he actually went up to one guy who was a part-time worker at the sheriff's office. Like the guy opened up the register to try and get out money, and then the very moment he reached his fingers in to get the money out, Tobin Bell came up and slammed the drawer shut on his hand. He's like, "Now, Chester, we have 1 or 2 options here. There's one where you come away with this with all your fingers, and then there's the other where you lose some of your fingers. You choose right now which one you want to do." And then it was because I remembered seeing that, and I'm just like, this could be Jigsaw's origin story.
Yeah.
Like he was an FBI agent who actually went crazy. And just started killing people.
I just think Jigsaw's story was really compelling on a really bad guy. It was like, I did not want Jigsaw to die, but I also didn't want him to like completely murder innocent people too. But it is the concept of how he gives them a choice to get through it. Now, some of the people are just fucked no matter what.
Well,
he pretty much plans them more pain and suffering than the rest of them.
Yeah, like the acid shit. Like,
Yeah, and
you
it's like
know,
the guy
get
that
your
was in the
head in
bone
acid.
twister.
Oh,
The
that
bone.
one?
Oh, dude, no, he didn't have a fighting chance because he's not relying on himself. He was relying on somebody
You
else.
see,
so
that's where but that was in the later movies. You see, the
that
first
was in
3
3.
films-
That was in Saw 3. I'm pretty sure.
the torture rack. I think
Was that 4?
No, well, I mean, that happens in 3, but you find out in 4 why that happened.
Oh,
turns out it was
okay.
Amanda. That was Amanda who made the
Yeah,
trap.
because at some point, like the people that start taking over for Jigsaw are like they're not doing it the way he wanted it.
Yeah,
like,
I
like
mean-
they're just literally just basically killing them. They're just
Well,
setting him up to
Amanda, that's
fail.
what she did to the detective. The detective, the one woman who had her rib cage ripped out in the
Yeah.
third one, turns out that was unwinnable. And that's when they started to notice that this wasn't Jigsaw who made this trap, because
Yeah.
Jigsaw, no matter what,
Yeah, he
always
gives
made
you
it
a
to where
choice.
you could make it out with enough pain and suffering.
Yeah,
But it was impossible
still, yeah.
because she reached in and grabbed the key, but the key didn't fit. I mean,
Well, the lock came off, but it was looped through her ribs, so she couldn't take the thing out of her ribs.
oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
And then that one detective got fucking crushed to death. The walls.
Oh,
closed. They
yeah.
looked- honestly, that's probably one of the worst ways I would think would be. to
Oh
go,
yeah,
like, with the walls closed.
psychologically.
Oh, yeah.
Like I always think of like what would be the most like what goes through the mind when you're jumping out of an airplane with no parachute. Like how much adrenaline would go through your head? You'd probably pass out before you hit the ground.
Well,
You know, but there's certain things about that being crushed to death. Oh, I think that would be one of the. Oh,
there's
the worst
actually
ways.
times
claustrophobic,
there's
so-
actually times there's a phobia I have where this happened to me when I was a kid, and I'll never forget it. I had a nightmare that I was buried alive. And the number one thing that I always had to do to myself was whenever I had that similar feeling, I actually had to stand up, put my arms and my legs out like this, just to make sure that I could actually like move around. And because whenever you're in a coffin, it's tonk, tonk, like
Hey,
Yeah.
that
if you-
to me is one of the most terrifying things I can imagine going in.
if you do get buried alive, just Uma Thurman your way
Yeah,
out.
Kill Bill.
They actually show that that's
Like,
bullshit.
it's a-
Of course.
Yeah, they said that's a lot of pressure and
You
weight.
can, like-
6 foot of soil is actually pretty heavy, but the problem is it's
okay, I actually gotta
oxygen.
I actually gotta do that.
Well, to be fair,
Oxygen
to be
is your worst
fair,
enemy. You don't want to panic, breathe heavy.
what wasn't it Beatrix or Beatrix?
Beatrix Kiddo.
Beatrix,
Beatrix,
yeah.
when she's crawling out, it looks like there's a big gap of
that's
air.
your only way out. Think about it. That's your only way out of a coffin. But you can stay in there and prolong the oxygen in there, which is going to die, or you can somehow hulk it out of that in one breath. You know, because
Well-
once that soil goes in there and you lose that oxygen,
It's over.
you got about a couple minutes, but your muscles that you're using to force your weight are going to eat up that oxygen in your body faster. Your heart rate's going to go up. You don't stand a chance if you're buried alive. There's
No,
nothing you're gonna do.
the only way you can get out is if someone finds you.
Finds you and pulls your ass out quick.
Which actually there was a movie that had Ryan Reynolds where he was actually a contractor for the U.S. government who got kidnapped and was buried alive and had a cell phone in his pocket. And they
Oh, I
called
remember.
him-
Yeah, I remember watching that.
And they called him and they said that the chances of finding you were very low. And even with if we trace a cell phone, there's no guarantee that we'll find you.
You wouldn't give them a signal on 6 feet under
Yeah.
soil either.
Well, that's one
What
of the
sucks,
parts.
would
of the,
anybody actually be able to hear you 6 foot under
No.
the...
no,
Absolutely
they'd
not.
see like the ground where you were buried and all that.
Yeah, it was first.
You could be standing on top of it. You could be screaming at the top of your lungs. And
Oh, that's
The
what
crickets
scares
would-
me
the
the most.
Yeah, I
crickets
mean,
would be louder than
that,
you.
honestly,
Like-
you'd probably right. I'd probably just like chill
Well,
because at least if
there-
you're
well,
chilling, your heart rate's slow, you're just gonna pass out.
you will pass
So,
out before the
Yeah.
pain sets in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll die. You'll
And
suffocate.
more likely, your brain's you're gonna panic. Naturally, I mean, you can try all that you want to not to panic,
it's
but
still bugging me.
when that
Like, I
oxygen
can
starts
still
going
feel
low,
it. I could just like
yeah,
because when I was a kid, that really scared the shit. Like I woke up, I was sweating. My bed sheet was like soaked with sweat. Just like holy
Oh, yeah.
crap.
So
like, one of the scariest moments of my life.
Sarah
that
Williams
never
has a
actually
question for Roan. Who do you prefer, Freddy, Jason, or Michael Myers?
happened.
Freddie, Jason, or Michael.
No, when you say prefer, are you talking about just like
Yeah.
your favorite, or are you talking
Yeah,
about like survivability, or if I had to choose one to go against?
I mean, Freddy's cool from a psychological perspective because it's kind of like that Cthulhu thing where
Mhm.
it's
Just
always
don't sleep.
that that
I'm Michael all the way, man.
Mike Myers.
Mike
Michael
Myers?
is fucking sick.
Okay.
He's my
Conceptually, I think Freddy Krueger is one of the most terrifying because you can't possibly live without sleep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
and we see that. Like, I remember watching, what was it, Jason versus Freddy? or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Hypnotist.
That
I
was-
love
yeah.
that movie.
Yeah,
I know it's
There's so
cheesy,
much
but I
cheesy
love
shit
it.
that
It's
goes with
awesome.
so I'd probably say Freddy just because
It's
it
kind
creates
of
a
like comedy too at the same time.
Yeah.
I gotta say, because he looks pretty.
Michael
Because-
Myers and Jason are so similar.
well, and they're physical enemies that there's almost basically it's essentially a geography problem where
Yeah.
just put yourself, just go to the next town or just don't go to that fucking campsite.
Get kept on a
And it's not
plane
even
and
wrong.
leave the country.
Yeah,
I mean,
Freddy's
well,
gonna
yeah.
follow you no matter where you are. So.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
There was actually a brilliant part that they did in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake in 2009. that didn't have Robert Englund, which I wish they would have. But at the same time, I like Jackie Earle Haley, the guy that got to play him. I like him as an actor. But there is one part of that film that actually, to me, was really terrifying, was that they brought it into the 21st century, and there was parts of it that were actually really terrifying. Like, the one kid, like, he did a vlog, like, his entire experience, like, I can't sleep anymore. I don't know what it is. There's just something, I feel like there's something after me. And then it, like, shows him on stream falling asleep, and then something, like, pushes him forward. It, like, pulls him towards the camera, and the feed dies. And then there's so many things that they did right in it, but then all of a sudden they tried to make you feel sorry for Freddy because you thought, oh, it's a mistake. It was a mistake that they killed him.
Yeah, because
if they would
child
have
molestation, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he was a child molester. Then they end up wasn't he accused of being a child molester?
Well,
or was
in
he actually
the remake he was.
Yeah,
in the remake he was, but there was no full confirmation. But then
they burned him alive anyway.
Well, they burned him alive anyway. And if they would have had that, then I think, oh God, that would have actually made Freddy sort of almost like an anti-hero / tortured soul. And I think that would have been okay. But then they did the whole reveal at the end where, no, he actually was a child molester and all that. And I'm just like, why would you go through all this effort trying to make us feel sorry for him?
Because you can't feel sorry. I mean, once
to
the
be fair,
moment,
that puts you in it's a weird place.
It does put you in a weird place.
You feel bad for the child molester.
Yeah, a lot of people.
no.
A lot of people actually say that
rude.
like child molesters have a mental
dare you.
issue that's can't necessarily really be cured, but they shouldn't be just executed just because they got some kind of brain deficiency.
Well,
Definitely
truth be
not
told, to me, there's
defending
one
child
cure.
molesters. And, yeah,
To me,
exactly.
there's one cure. It's a lead aspirin to the back of the noggin.
Yeah, and most people would agree with that too. So it's a weird psychology thing, but
Well, look,
It's-
I understand
yeah.
that there are people out there who are sick. I understand that. But there are people out there who delight
Yeah.
in the torture of others, and sociopaths, psychopaths,
oh yeah,
and just downright nasty people who I have had the unfortunate. I've had the unfortunate.
Freddy Krueger is how we
like,
went into this
life
conversation.
of meeting some of them, and if I could, I would probably beat the shit out of them right now if they were in front of me.
Union says that best horror character is Hannibal Lecter because he'll still kill you, but you'd get an intelligent conversation out of
That is true.
Who is that?
Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, Hannibal.
Union said that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Union. In terms of like truly terrifying villains, I would say Hannibal Lecter's up there.
Mhm.
It definitely in my top 3 because of just because of how easy he is to talk to. Because that's what he does. He digs into your noggin and he makes you think you're his friend.
I definitely would not want to be in one of Jigsaw's traps, though. That would be no. Just kill me. I'd rather be chop my head off with a machete than put me in one of Jigsaw's traps. To be honest, no.
Maybe I agree
No.
with some more of the later stuff. But like The Grudge was probably my as far as horror movies goes, is probably the one that got to me when I was growing up.
Was it?
The
See, I always thought
Grudge-
that Grudge was
The Grudge
funny.
and
I
The
watched.
Grudge is gross.
I watched The Grudge when I was a kid. I watched The Grudge with my dad.
Oh, I did too.
And it was hilarious because because we saw that and we saw Darkness Falls.
Oh yeah.
And those both because
Darkness Falls.
Darkness
Oh
Falls
my
is
God,
silly.
I forgot that
Yeah,
movie.
Darkness
Although
was
that
bad.
does, to be
I
fair,
would
that does
watch
give
it
me a
every
little
week,
bit
though.
of
I
reminds
had
me every
to watch
time
it
I'm
'cause it
walking
was so
like down these dark
scary.
hallways.
Like-
To me, it was stupid because okay, this guy gets
It
launched.
is now to
Well-
me, but
well-
back in the day. It
Well,
wasn't.
this guy hit in a 50-mile-an-hour car crash, crashes into a tree, goes flying through the windshield, rolls out of it, and then stands back up. I'm like,
Whew!
what?
Oh, good.
What?
Like what?
Damn.
No.
You must have had a lot to drink. You mean,
Yeah.
just,
Just keep your body.
Well,
Just
But that was
keep
just-
your body
that was
limp
just
and you'll go right
stupid.
through the window and stand right back
Well,
up.
that was okay.
I
the
promise I
concept
wasn't
of it
jerking
was
off,
pretty
so-
cool. The concept of it was pretty cool. A monster that kills you through the darkness,
Mhm.
but they made it stupid by pretty much saying, "Oh, it's a killer rogue tooth fairy."
Yeah.
Congratulations.
That
Yeah,
what that's what made it so funny. Is the tooth fairy?
Yeah, it was pretty much a
So,
rogue.
have you seen Bird Box?
No, but my mom will not stop
Actually
talking to me
love it.
about it.
I will highly recommend it. I loved
actually
it.
love
For original kind of horror concept, great. I don't want to spoil anything from you,
Thank you.
but the unknown is scarier than when you can actually see full detail of the enemy, and that happens in so many movies. Jeepers Creepers was a great example of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really give you full detail. You're like, what the fuck is it? What's going on? Kind of reveals it at the end, but you still don't know exactly what it is.
That's
and-
like
Oh, so it's like The Happening.
yeah.
Well, it's just like for me, the
happening.
second one was
The
second
trees are
Jeepers
killing
Creepers was
us.
not as effective as the first.
Yeah, I think Stephen King's The
Is
Mist.
that the one with the suicide?
The Mist was always terrifying to me. It wasn't the fact of what it was. It was just you don't know what it is, and
Well, for me, I thought the monsters that they came up with in Frank Darabont's adaptation was
Yeah.
really good. And actually, Frank Darabont, the ending that he came up with in the movie, Stephen King actually went on record to say, "Why didn't I think of that?"
Yeah.
Now, when you say
was-
which version, because
The movie,
Yeah, there's a
the old one.
the 2007 movie.
Okay, the one where
with what's his
Yeah,
boom,
Thomas Jane.
boom at the end, the
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
shot, then the fog goes away and the
Yeah.
military. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was the worst
It was
ending.
like,
I'm sorry, I
God
hated that ending.
damn.
It ruined the whole movie
I
for me.
I
was
loved it.
pissed.
Okay, at first I hated it too, but then
I was
thinking
like,
about it,
you
but
gotta
then
be
thinking about it,
bullshitting me.
but then thinking about it, that pure cathartic release that all of a sudden he's standing there waiting for. He's like, "Come on!" Just like wanting to die
Yeah.
because of what's happened.
Oh yeah, and
to me,
seconds later,
that-
I was
and then,
like,
and then within
"You're
like
shitting me."
15 seconds, he hears something in the distance, like this low roar approaching him, and then he sees the tank barrel, and you hear the music, and you're just like, "No, no!"
Man.
Yeah, dude,
And
I
then
was.
all of a sudden, these
That was a
army guys
great
come
movie
up.
for that.
Well-
the bee sting scene.
Oh,
Oh, dude.
yeah!
They got it
like,
right
all
now.
of a sudden,
Face and his face
her
starts
neck
swell-
just like
oh.
swells up to like this. And then, of course, there was also the hive, like the hive of like
Yeah.
spider monsters.
Oh,
that
yeah,
guy
that
who's
was
against
bad,
the wall, he's
too.
like, "What have we done?" And then he falls forward, and his
Well,
back
their
explodes.
silk, their silk would like cut you like
Yeah,
a
it's like
laser.
Yeah.
It was
acid or
like,
something.
oh, dude, that's
yeah,
bad.
the acid
That's
silk.
bad.
Yeah,
silk
I don't-
spiders.
You're
Yeah, I
like, oh
just-
man, that's
man.
bad.
Could one of those fucking giant dragonfly things not have killed the crazy fucking Jim Jones fucking lady?
Oh yeah, Miss Carmody.
Oh, I'm the world's worst for like when I find characters that I don't like. I'm just like, well, somebody just please kill this motherfucker.
Well,
I've
I
done
guarantee
that
you,
every
you don't have to
time,
worry
too.
about going to prison right now because if you whack him over the head with a shovel right now, I guarantee it. The rest of them will help you dispose of the body.
Well, you
Like-
know what I would have. You know what I would have done if I were them. I would have actually asked her. It's like, Miss Carmody, I actually need to talk to you about something real quick. There's someone here that is really concerning me about the safety of this. I need you to come talk to me. I'd have taken her back there to where that door was.
Yeah.
And then
Here you
all
go,
of a sudden,
tentacle monster.
And then all of a sudden,
You
she'd
push
come
him out,
back there. She'd
shoosh.
come back there. I'd have bludgeoned her over the head with a can of SpaghettiOs, and then I'd open the
Can
door.
SpaghettiOs would be your weapon of choice. Hey, go. We
Why
gotta go.
not? 'Cause
That's
why-
all I got is a
because-
can of SpaghettiOs. How about just a push kick up the door and then close the door?
Well, because then people might hear like outside the door, like, "Let me in, let me in."
SpaghettiOs.
He pushed me out here. Instead, no. You clock
No.
her over the head with something. You roll her out under the door, and then you close it, and then you hear the monster come and take her away, and then it's just like, and like we don't know what happened
If
to
they
her.
ask
Like, all
what
of a sudden we can
happened,
just
she
say,
fell.
Oh
She
no!
fell.
No, like
Where'd
all of a
she
sudden,
go?
like all of a sudden, people are just like, "What happened to her?" It's like we don't
She
know.
fell. Like,
Like
Oh,
we don't know.
no.
Like she said, she
This
was going
bitch
to go
done
out.
Yeah,
stole our
she
she said she got to go outside for air.
Yeah, she said.
Oh, no, what
stole
are we
our
gonna do? Oh well, I
SpaghettiOs.
guess we can't
'Cause-
have our religious
'cause-
sermons
Because
anymore.
you always have those like borderline sociopathic, retarded, religious nuts in Stephen King material. In which, look,
I mean, you
I've
can
dealt
usually
with them.
recognize them right away.
Oh yeah,
real
they're
quick.
easy.
They're
Well, that's
like-
just like in even the movies that the movie that Stephen King directed himself, Maximum Overdrive. You had that one
love that
crazy,
movie.
that one crazy Bible says like, "You better pull me out of here, or I'll
I was
kill you."
terrified of steamrollers as a kid from that movie.
Oh, because the baseball field scene.
Well, yeah, dude, when he's running, that steamroller coming behind him, I'm like, dude, just jump left or jump right.
Yeah,
I'm like,
because those
Dude, don't-
that thing
freaks you out,
cannot
those are
turn
terrible.
around
Don't
fast.
steamrollers, don't they go like
They
2
pretty much
miles
go
an hour?
straight.
No,
and
some
this
of them
is-
do actually
Reality,
go pretty
no,
fast.
Do they?
No,
reality.
this
it's
this
still not
movie
fast
made
enough.
every electronic thing like the lawnmower was terrifying. It was like that lawnmower is coming to get you. There's nothing
I'm
you're
sorry, I
gonna do. Like,
just
Actually, there was the one part of it where where actually the lawnmower was supposed to supposed to keep chasing the boy down the street, and that was supposed to be part of the next scene. But the lawnmower prop actually broke because the radio control in it went haywire, and it
Yeah.
just went off to the right, and it actually hit someone in the ankle and
Dude,
broke their
yeah.
ankle.
Wasn't there
killer
a-
Pepsi machines that shoot Pepsi bottles.
That was
It's just-
awesome.
dude,
Was
that
it-
was
When the coach
awesome.
got knocked in the head, and he had a huge crater in his head.
Wasn't there like a Stephen King movie or something that came out? I guess a few years ago. What I don't know. It was like somewhere like the cell phones.
Oh, Cell.
I haven't. I saw like a trailer for it, but then
I don't think it actually did come out. I think they
I don't
mixed
think
it.
it did
Okay.
either
Because
I've watched almost all.
That was one that people actually said that was one of Stephen King's worst ideas, because the idea that something on the cell phone like infests like reprograms your brain or something like that, that's pretty cool. But how he had it was like turn everything into a hive mind. Huh?
Okay. I said that's called Facebook.
Yeah.
It turns people.
Oh, I thought it was just that it kills people or something. Does it turn you into like a zombie?
It turns you into sort of like a zombie hive mind,
30 minutes.
and it can command you to kill yourself if you want to, or if it wants to. Like all of a sudden it finds you not useful anymore.
Yeah.
It like pick up the gun. Okay. Pull the trigger. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
Click, click, click. Oh, it's empty. Find another one. Okay. And it just
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. I was just thinking like, oh, that's kind of a cool idea, because I mean, as far as like the zombie apocalypse, everybody uses a fucking phone these days.
Exactly.
So
And that
I'm telling you, the
zombies
first
right
episode
there.
of Futurama had it right. We need to make suicide booths.
No.
It's a good disposable. It disposes of them. It gets rid. I'm just kidding.
No. Well.
$1.50. Damn, it's expensive.
Yeah. Bender throws in like Bender.
That
does,
bitch
like,
took my money.
I remember the one where they actually had like a scenario like Maximum Overdrive, where the robots were just being dicks to everybody.
Yeah.
Goes to the ATM, gives the puts the card in. It's mine now, buddy. And then all of a sudden he turns around and goes to the suicide booth, and it closes its door and reads close at the top. He's like, no.
No, joking, of course.
I know.
Not
Well,
really.
personally, I think euthanasia is actually legal in certain
countries. Yeah.
Like Australia. I think Australia has it legalized now.
There was one country where there was a church that would do it for you. There was a church, and it was kind of like a baptism, right? But it was a euthanasia.
Was this in Australia?
I'm not sure where it was at.
Yeah, I know certain European countries are.
Yeah, but
I know Germany's
There's
all
a
about
way
it.
you could go and basically commit suicide for Christ, and I was like, "What the hell is this? This
Okay,
is some dark
that
web cult
breaks-
stuff." And
I'm sorry, but there's a commandment that I think breaks a certain rule of that.
Yeah,
Thou
but-
shalt not kill. That means yourself too.
yeah,
There's
I
also
have
an
no
old
idea what
Catholic,
country it was.
an old Catholic proverb that those who commit suicide are the only ones who are guaranteed a place in hell. In which
Yeah,
I don't know about
certain-
that, but I think a person who's mentally who's not mentally in their right, like we talked earlier about Chester.
Mhm.
Like Chester, I'm not sure what his religious beliefs were. I'm pretty sure like he didn't really have any. But given all that he went through and his mental capacity, I mean, I don't know. I don't there's no real way to know unless you were there with him and you saw it firsthand.
Try. I mean,
I don't. I try not to judge, because to me, suicide's a hard thing to like.
It's a hard discussion too. I mean,
well, I've had
I don't believe in a particular right or wrong. I would say there's always a gray area, and there's always determining factors on each and every case.
Yeah.
And mental deficiency or non-mental deficiency, rough life or not a rough
Depression,
life.
yeah.
Some people are born with a mind that's going to forever haunt them.
Yeah.
To be honest,
it's
anxiety and
ugly.
depression, as much as people jump on this bandwagon because it's trendy, it's not cool. It's, talking to people is, a lot of people don't like it, but I think it's necessary because some people just can't help themselves,
Well,
They
yeah,
have to constantly depend on others to help them, which is not necessarily a good thing, because I don't think anyone should ever place their happiness in others.
Yeah.
But as families, as we've seen in the North American culture, people stick to family and having friends, and just basically humans are social creatures, just like a lot of different animals.
We are.
And I think being able to socialize and talk about those problems and get them out
Well,
in a non-social world nowadays is kind of an issue with people, because people just don't socialize like they used to.
Well, they don't socialize like they used to. Like, okay, the life expectancy now is higher than it's ever been.
Health-wise, yes.
Health-wise. But that being said, overall happiness for people, like the amount of people who actually say, who have taken aptitude tests and said that they're happy with their lives, is actually on a decline, because more and more people are getting
the depression and anxiety rates are highest they've ever been. Our suicide rates are highest they've ever been. But our human population is also as high as it's ever been too. So there's an inflation on just human population.
Well, to be fair, I mean, part of it is like that whole social media thing where, people look at, everybody else on social media, like, oh man, they're having such a good time. Everybody's just having a better life. Most time it be, but all of that shit is fake too. People are just being like, man, I had such an amazing breakfast. Let me take this super cool picture of it.
And then all the broke people are looking at that like, yep.
Yeah,
my life sucks.
And so
why do I have to be born? And why do I have to be me?
It's just a negative feedback.
Yeah, it's a really pressuring thing. But
it gets reinforced every time you engorge yourself in stuff and put too much stock in it. It's like if everyone judged their lives based upon how, like, I don't know, Cristiano Ronaldo or Leo Messi or Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. If we judged our lives based upon us versus them, it'd just be like, okay, my life is shit, and I should just self-terminate. Yeah. But honestly, I don't do that because every person is responsible for their life in their own way, and people don't want. And there's all these people out there nowadays who don't want to take responsibility for things. Like I keep seeing everyone playing a blame game as to why I'm not. Look, you want to know why I was depressed for the majority of my life? It was because I blamed myself and I didn't talk to people. I blamed myself for everything. Like, I know I self-deprecate. Like, I say, hey, look at me, I'm a fat ass and all that. Yeah, I self-deprecate, and I need to break that because, in all honesty, that's not healthy for me to do. But at the same time, it's a lot better than how I used to be. I used to hate everything and not want to talk to. Like, whenever I had something bad happen to me, I took it out on the wrong people. Instead of something bad happening to me and me retaliating and actually, like, letting people know to leave me alone, stop doing that. I don't like that. Instead, I just held it in, and then I would take out my frustrations on, like, my mother, who I think she didn't like that either because, hey, she was in the midst of a divorce and trying to keep the house, even though the house we were living in costed too much for just one person to pay for.
Yeah. And
it was a very ugly situation that I put myself in because I never learned how to do that myself, and I kept blaming myself. I blame myself for my parents' divorce. My parents' divorce was not my fault. It was the fault of both my mom and my dad. My mom couldn't let go of the fact that my dad, she thought my dad, cheated on her. But my dad proved to her that he didn't. He actually went and proved, like, his work record, like, showed his work record and his time slip and everything. Turns out he didn't. But my mom still had that sneaking fear because guess who was whispering in her ear the whole time? Her friends. Her friends telling her, it's like, oh no, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing this, he's doing that. How come he's not here right now? How come he's not here right now?
The gossip trend.
Yeah, and then my dad, on the other hand,
toxicity.
He had to deal with family members on his side of the family that hated my mother's guts. Hated her. Like, and that's not even a secret either. Those family members who I've talked to have told me the same.
Yeah.
And that's why because
your friends that you hang out with, they ultimately influence your everyday decisions. They really do.
They do. And my mom let them influence her too much, and they just drifted apart. And that's fine. I mean, that's life. I mean, divorce happens. But as a kid, I didn't understand that. I thought it was my fault. I thought because I wasn't doing well enough in school or this and that, and I tried too hard. And by me trying too hard, I actually grew disillusioned with school. Because when I was a kid, I was in PACE. I was in advanced placement, so I was doing really good. But then 5th grade rolled around, and my parents got divorced, and all of a sudden I was going from A's and B's to, like, C's and D's and failing some classes. And then eventually I got over it by the time I was about to graduate high school, and now here I am.
I know it sounds kind of weird, but I think, like, the world just doesn't have enough pick-me-up, man. I mean, to be honest, in a world of just constant, where it's cool to be negative on everything, it's cool to hate on shit. And I'm dude, I can't stand
it's cool,
haters,
and
man.
Also, it's cool to be a victim too nowadays.
Yeah.
Look, I understand, like, if bad stuff has happened to you, I understand that. Like, I possibly can't understand everything that's going on in your life, but that doesn't mean you need to constantly soak yourself in this aura of impregnable victimhood to where you can't rise up and get past it. Instead, you want to rest on your laurels and just depend on everybody feeling sorry for you. Like, if I had everybody feel sorry for me all the time, everybody would hate me. I wouldn't be here right now interacting with you all, and I wouldn't have a YouTube channel right now that has over almost 173,000 subscribers. I wouldn't have all this. I'd just be sitting on my ass in my basement, 30 years old, and not doing anything except making my mom's life a living hell still. And I was doing that for 5 years, and I hated it because, honestly, I just didn't like myself at the time. And then I realized I don't have to do this anymore. I don't have to sit around and wait for the world to solve my problems for me.
A lot of that's
I can do it
growing
myself
up too. I mean, to be honest, I think some people that are not in the positions that have to take self accountability for every action they make are not. They never make it through that. Some people, you can run from all your problems, you can hide from all your problems, but at the end of the day, the person that has to face it is you. It's all in here every day.
It is.
Especially if you live with an anxious mind or literally some depression issues. The only person that can fix that is you, but you have to try.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When you're depressed, you don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like even getting out of bed. You don't feel emotion, but the only person that can fix that is you. My solution to it is stay as busy as possible so I don't have time to be depressed. I mean, that is literally and my anxiety where my brain goes so fast. All right. If I channel that into something like watching educational stuff, tutorials, documentaries, History Channel, Science Nova, which, by the way, season 2 of Cosmos is coming soon.
Very cool.
Can't wait for that.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen the South Park thing on anxiety?
Mm-hmm.
the box.
Yeah. But see, I mean, and everybody, a lot of people don't understand really what it's like, but it's not a person breaking thing. You just have to know how to control it. And, it's like the martial artist saying, mind over matter. If you don't mind, it don't matter. I mean, it's always going to be there, but you can channel it and feel it and work with it, or you can just let it defeat you and sit on your couch all day long and not do anything.
Is Neil doing the second season?
Yes.
Actually, speaking on people who are getting out of that trend, Quinn, my roommate, formerly, I probably told you about formerly known as Heather. Quinn is actually making efforts to move on with their life, and actually they've got a job now. They've got someone that they care about a lot.
Sometimes it's a life change, like changing a job, changing your living situation.
Well, yeah, and Quinn for the longest time, Quinn suffers from A, clinical depression, B, anxiety, and C, they have lupus.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's actually something that's been tearing them down for a long time, but now they've got themselves in their right mind, and they're moving on with their life, and they're getting better, and they're actually talking about moving in with the person that they care about a lot, and building a better life. And I'm proud of them. I can't express that enough. I'm very proud that I don't mind being around Quinn. I like Quinn. Quinn's a cool person, but at the same time, just like the constant negativity that was surrounding them because of their own like mental capacity. It was suffocating to them. And I think because they actually went out and found somebody and actually they are now making efforts to make themselves better.
It's all about the effort, man.
Is.
Move a muscle, change a thought. I mean, that was what my therapist always told me, and guess what? It works. I mean, for example, don't feel like you wake up, you don't feel like doing anything, you really just can't. If you can just manage to grab your keys. Just grab your keys and make your driver's license, maybe, or go for a walk, or just go do something. Hang out with somebody, even if you don't want to hang out with them. Force yourself to do it, and you'll be glad you did.
Well,
some of my best friends forced me to come hang out with them all the time. And damn, if you force yourself to just get out of that box and go do it, you'll be glad you did. Because
I've heard the best thing you can do is wake up in the morning and make your bed. And that is no lie, like a motivation.
Yeah, on a motivational speech by the Navy.
Oh, yeah, that is right.
I've read
he did
about
too,
that.
but yeah.
Well, I'm terrible at that, but I do
But
wake up
at
and I
least
do.
you know
think
you
he was a bird
achieved
colonel.
something that day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was a bird colonel, and he said that he goes that way. No matter how bad your day is or whatever, when you go back to your bed, it'll be nice and made. And seriously, I mean that's no shit, but it's a psychology thing. It tricks your own mind too.
It is. Well, small achieve. Well, for me, CGP Grey came out with a video called "Ways to Avoid Happiness," and it's actually a video that explained. For me, I saw it and I was just like, "Holy crap!" I was doing so many of these things because he actually gave ways that you could actually ensure that you would be unhappy. Like the biggest thing was put everything in your room. Put a refrigerator in your room. It's like if your computer room is not in your room, bring the computer to you. If this and that, and I remembered I used to do that. I used to shut myself in my room. I would have a little mini fridge there that had all my stuff in it.
Oh yeah.
And I would barely have to move or do anything. And the only time I'd have to leave and go somewhere was like to just go get more, more.
I had
like
a friend that she suffered with anxiety, depression so bad that her whole room composed of a laptop on her bed, like a couple drinks over here, a little mini fridge, and she just never left that bed and just constantly stayed and indulged in Netflix. And not one thing is we need sunlight to not be completely depressed.
Well, absorption of endorphins is a very important thing.
Yeah.
Like, and you get that from natural sunlight. You get that, like, I know people are afraid to go outside, and like I know some people who are pale as snow, and
sunburn, as far as I know, besides sun poisoning, regular sunburn hasn't killed anybody that I know of.
No,
I mean,
no.
If you were that scared of the sun or a little sweat or, some little insects that come out or some pollen. Now, allergies is a real bitch for sure, but as far as I know, you're not going to die just by going outside,
Okay,
you don't live in a tropical jungle.
It turns out we've been going for just over an hour and a half. Man. So
that's good conversation.
I like these combos. I like these a lot. So yeah, we hope that you all have been sufficiently filled in with a lot of positive thinking and a lot of video game knowledge and movie knowledge and
suicide talk.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Well, I don't know.
It's real.
Your maturity level gets up to a certain point where you learn how to handle it, but you have to teach yourself how to overcome that. Right. Nobody can make you happy for you, and you have to take that self responsibility and self accountability.
When it comes to that, I always think back to what my elementary school teacher told me, which was suicide is a temporary solution or a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I agree, and. Well, we talk about this stuff, and we don't talk about it lightly. We mean this seriously because I think we've all had a brush in some way. Mm-hmm. We've known someone or have been around someone who has experienced it in some way. Like I had a family member and a friend both, and that was very difficult for me, and I didn't understand it, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. But overall, I came to a decent understanding about it, and it's something that has to be talked about in order for people to realize that they're not alone. They're not alone in suffering through this kind of stuff. And you have to realize that suffering, a lot of it is self-imposed. Yeah. Because in all honesty, we sometimes are our own worst enemy.
Sometimes when you get to a point where there's no more roads to take in your life and you don't know which one to go, that's when it's time to make a new one.
Yeah, grab a machete and trek through the woods.
Time to make a new one. That's actually my adventure to filmmaking, too, believe it or not. Filmmaking was my open up a new road, a new hobby, a new passion, a new profession, new life. And
Same thing here, man.
Turns out, man, I absolutely loved it. I love working with film and entertainment industry. And before that, it was the Marines. And Marines didn't really snap out for me too well, so decided to go for my dreams, I guess.
Well, for me, it was college for a few years, and then I decided to give music a serious try. When I did make it in music, I was just like, okay, I'm going to try out this YouTube thing.
Yep.
At first, the YouTube thing didn't work out. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to try something else. But wait, what if I tried this instead? And now I've got this.
Mine was the college thing too, but I tried to go to China and learn martial arts.
That
didn't really pay.
Did you want to be like the white Bruce Lee?
I wanted to be like a master, but then I really thought about like how much do martial arts teachers really get? Do they get any paid?
Is there any relaxation other than sitting in an uncomfortable position for hours?
Well, am I basically just going to end up having to get another job to support this?
I wanted to be an MMA fighter one day.
I remember you told me about that.
Dude, I was all about it, but man, I learned you have to train 5 to 7 days a week constantly, thousands of calories a day, constantly just in pain all day, and you can embrace that pain all day. But I was like, my body's eventually going to wear down.
Of course. Well, you ride the train long enough, eventually you're going to crash. So it's just
I did 8 years and then I guess it was time to. It's not that I don't enjoy training. Training's fun, but I do not enjoy getting my ass beat every day.
Of course.
Eventually I had to put it down.
Yeah. Well, all right. We've ranted and rambled long enough, so we hope you have enjoyed what you've seen here. And if you want to see more, feel free to come back and join us again next Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat channel.
And please stay warm.
And please do, yes, because
don't freeze to death.
Yeah,
there.
Actually, I just got strangely enough that you mentioned that, I just got a message from my landlord said, seriously, please run the taps a little bit so the pipes don't freeze.
Yeah, we do that here too.
Yeah, so I'll probably.
That's an expensive mistake.
I do have that. I actually have it in one of the bathrooms downstairs. I have it running. So it's not full blast. It's just like a decent stream, just a decent stream of water. So all right, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one, everybody. I'm Nate,
Lavina,
Jacob,
Roan,
and of course Nick in there on the panel, and we'll see you in the next one, everybody. Peace.